Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for allowing me to participate, even though I'm not on the subcommittee. I'm just going to ask you a basic question. I was down there, and we saw that the sombrero did not work, and we saw you start the slant drilling. Here's a basic question. When will you cap that well? What's your best guess?
We have multiple efforts underway that...
No, I mean, if you had...
I can't give you a deterministic... we have multiple efforts that we're working simultaneously.
Are you going to cap it in 90 days?
I believe we'll get the
relief.
Yes
or no?
I believe the relief well will be down in roughly 90 days.
So you think you'll cap it in 90 days with the slant drilling?
With the relief wells, or sooner with other methods.
What other methods, though? Because
we're still working on the blowout preventer itself and trying to do a top kill, which could be successful. Okay. We are also trying to get a containment system subsea.
Okay, so your best guess is within 90 days that you will close this rig of the evacuation of all the gasoline. That's your best guess.
I believe that or better.
Now, you're in a room all alone, just you and the governor of Florida. And he asked you this question. He said, when is your best estimate when it'll hit the Florida coast? What would you say?
I don't have any estimates of it hitting the Florida coast. I don't know.
Do you think it'll ever hit the Florida coast in these 90 days that you predict that they'll be closing the oil?
I don't have a way of predicting that. All I can say is that we're trying to get a containment system in such that oil is collected before.
Well, let's take a worst-case scenario. If, as I understand, the wind doesn't have an impact, it's basically the current. Is there a worst-case scenario where it could hit the Florida coast?
That is a possibility. That's why we're organizing to be able to do it.
Let's say it's a possibility. If you had to be a betting man, would you say it would hit the West Coast, hit the Florida coast in 90 days?
I'm not speculating on that.
Okay,
we're doing everything we can to make sure it doesn't.
A constituent sent me a little video. It showed a large basin of water, and they poured oil into it. They took blue hay and other types of hay, and they dropped it into it. And in about a minute and a half, it absorbed all of the oil in the basin of water. What's the possibility? Can you drop hay in the area? They take the hay out, and then it becomes fuel. Why couldn't you have just dropped something to absorb all that oil instantly to give you more time to make decisions? Have you ever thought of that?
Yes, some of that absorbent-type material will be used in the near shore and the beach areas if anything.
Yeah, but you could have dropped it right on the site, then take barges out, pick it all up, it absorbs all the oil off the top, and then you could have made the oil into things that you could actually burn. Has that ever occurred to you folks?
Well, we're under Unified Area Command with the Coast Guard, and I don't believe that is as scalable as it needs to be for the farthest offshore.
If it was a good idea, do you need the federal government to approve it, or can you do it on your own?
Well, we work together with the federal government under the Unified Area Command, and every decision is authorized by the Unified Area Command.
In tab 11 of page 7.7-1, in its application to explore at this site, BP, do you want to get that tab, or you just want me to read it to you?
In this book?
Yeah. Okay. It reports it has the capability to respond to spills of 300,000 barrels per day. Okay, this is you folks telling us that you have the capability to respond adequately to spills of 300,000 barrels per day. It's on page 7-1, section 7.0. This is your oil spill information graph, worst case scenario. This is you talking worst case scenario. And you say volumes uncontrolled blowout per day, 300,000 barrels per day. Is that correct, the information in here? Do you still stand by that?
I see that.
Okay. What is the current spill per day right today?
The current estimate's 5,000 barrels per day.
So basically that's 60 times less than you say the worst case scenario that you can adequately respond to. Is that correct?
That's the math, yes.
So why are you having so much trouble responding to this when even by your own literature you're saying you could handle up to 300,000 barrels a day? You have something that's 60 times less, and yet this thing is starting to hit the Chandelier coast in Louisiana, and the possibility it might even move, it's hitting Alabama and possibly going to Florida. So why can't you Why didn't you have an adequate response even when your worst-case scenario says you can handle up to 300,000 barrels per day?
Well, this particular incident is very difficult because we've got a
This says
riser
worst-case
package.
scenario. This is your words.
The mechanical configuration of this is very difficult, and the relief efforts that we're doing include 3 drilling rigs that are working simultaneously to try to contain and
So
stop
you're
this.
saying today's situation is more than a worst-case scenario that you outlined in your report to us?
No, I'm not saying that.
Well, you see why I'm puzzled why you folks are sitting here saying you don't have control when your worst-case scenario said you can handle 300,000 barrels
Would
a
the
day.
gentleman yield for
Yes.
clarification?
Yeah.
Is the reason you think you could handle a 300,000 barrel a day worst case is because the assumption is the blowout prevention actually works?
It's part of the assumption in dealing with this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stearns.
Well, I appreciate the Chairman. The only thing I would conclude is that I assume in the worst-case scenario that would be part of the worst-case scenario. So that's the only concern I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.